Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main control room of Luna Station, staring at the large blue screen that showed a message from space. The message had arrived just 2 hours ago, and already his hands were shaking as he read it for the 5th time. After 30 years of complete silence from the aliens, they were finally talking to humans again. The screen displayed words in perfect English, though Jake knew they came from creatures who lived on worlds millions of miles away. The message was simple but made his stomach feel heavy with worry. The Galactic Council wanted to see Earth's leaders. They wanted to talk about what humans had been doing in space. They were not happy. Dr. Lisa Hayes walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee and a thick folder full of papers. She worked as Earth's best expert on alien life and had spent most of her adult life studying the few messages humans had received from space before the long silence began. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes looked tired from reading reports all night. "Any new information about what they want?" Jake asked her as she sat down at the metal table in the center of the room. Lisa opened her folder and pulled out several photographs of alien ships that human scouts had taken over the years. The pictures showed massive vessels that looked nothing like the sleek rockets humans built. Some looked like giant crystals floating through space, while others resembled sea creatures with flowing tentacles trailing behind them. "The Council has 3 main groups filing complaints against us," Lisa explained, pointing to different pictures. "The Veltar are the crystal-like aliens who control about 200 star systems in the eastern part of our galaxy. They say, 'We're building colonies too close to their territory without asking permission first.'" She moved to another photograph showing a ship that looked like a giant fish made of metal and glass. "The Zephyrians live underwater on their home planets. They're upset because our mining operations on asteroid belts are disrupting trade routes they've used for thousands of years." The third picture showed a vessel covered in what looked like insect legs and wings. "And the Cricks think we're too dangerous to be left alone. They believe humans are naturally violent and will eventually attack other species if we're not controlled." Jake rubbed his forehead where a headache was starting to form. "What do they want us to do about it?" "The message doesn't say exactly, but based on what we know about council meetings, they probably want to limit how many planets we can live on. Maybe force us to give up some of our newer colonies." Lisa's voice was calm, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. Before Jake could respond, Commander Sam Parker burst through the door. Sam ran the Deep Space Reconnaissance Division, which meant he was in charge of all the human ships that traveled far from Earth to explore new areas of space. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of working on spacecraft. "Engines, we have a big problem," Sam announced, breathing hard as if he had been running. "Our long-range scouts picked up massive fleet movements heading toward the neutral zone near human space. All 3 species that filed complaints are moving warships toward our territory." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. "How many ships?" "Our best estimate is over 3,000 vessels total. The Veltar have about 800 crystal ships moving in formation. The Zephyrians are bringing roughly 1,000 of their bioships, and the Crick swarm contains at least 1,200 attack craft." Lisa dropped her coffee cup, and the brown liquid spilled across her papers. 3,000 ships? We only have about 50 vessels that could fight in a real battle." Sam nodded grimly. "It gets worse. The ships aren't just traveling toward the neutral zone randomly. They're coordinating their movements like they're planning to attack our colonies after the council meeting ends." Jake walked over to the large window that looked out at Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue and white marble. Somewhere down there, billions of people were going about their daily lives without knowing that alien fleets were preparing to destroy everything humans had built among the stars. They're not just filing a complaint, Jake realized. They're preparing for war. The council meeting is just an excuse to get our leaders away from Earth so we can't coordinate our defenses. Lisa gathered up her wet papers and tried to save the ones that weren't completely soaked with coffee. There might be another explanation. Maybe they're just trying to scare us into agreeing to their demands without a fight. Sam shook his head. "I don't think so. Our intelligence reports suggest that all 3 species have been building up their military forces for months. This isn't a sudden decision. They've been planning this for a long time." Jake knew he had to make a decision that would affect the future of the entire human race. Earth's government had given him the authority to represent humanity at the council meeting, but they had also given him access to humanity's most secret military projects. He turned away from the window and looked at both of his advisors. "Contact Admiral Kate Sullivan immediately. Tell her to implement Protocol 7. Lisa looked confused. "What's Protocol 7? Sam's eyes went wide. "Are you sure about this, Jake? Once we activate those systems, there's no going back. The whole galaxy will know what we've been building." "What systems?" Lisa demanded. "What are you two talking about?" Jake sat down heavily in his chair. For the past 20 years, human scientists have been working on a secret project in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. We've been building weapons that use dark matter technology. Dark matter? Lisa looked even more confused. "But that's just theoretical physics. Nobody knows how to actually use dark matter for anything practical." "That's what we wanted everyone to think," Sam explained. "But our best physicists figured out how to manipulate dark matter about 15 years ago. We've been using that knowledge to build warships that can do things no other species in the galaxy has ever seen." Jake stood up and walked to a secure communication panel on the wall. He placed his hand on a scanner that read his fingerprints and looked into a camera that scanned his eyes. A green light appeared, and a new screen opened showing the face of Admiral Kate Sullivan. Kate was a woman in her 50s with short black hair and steel-gray eyes that had seen too many battles. She commanded humanity's most secret military division from a hidden base deep in the asteroid belt, where no alien scouts had ever traveled. "Admiral, we're activating Protocol 7, Jake announced. "The aliens are preparing for war, and we need to show them that humans are not as helpless as they believe." Kate nodded once. "Understood, Captain. How long do we have?" "The council meeting starts in 72 hours. I want our ships in position and ready to demonstrate human capabilities. If the negotiations go badly, the dark matter warships will be ready," Kate promised. "The aliens are about to learn that humans have been preparing for this day for a very long time." The screen went dark, and Jake turned back to face Lisa and Sam. The decision was made. Humanity would attend the council meeting, but they would not go defenseless. Deep in the asteroid belt, weapons that could bend space and time itself were powering up for the first time, ready to show the galaxy that humans deserved respect. Among the stars, the diplomatic ship Earth's Hope dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the main view screen as their destination came into sight. The Galactic Council station was bigger than anything humans had ever built in space. It looked like a giant glass ball floating above a green and blue planet, with thousands of lights twinkling inside its transparent walls. Dr. Lisa Hayes checked her notes one more time as they approached the station. She had spent the 3-day journey studying everything humans knew about council politics and alien customs. Her hands were steady, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes as she watched alien ships of every possible shape and size moving around the station like metal fish in a cosmic ocean. "Look at the size of some of those vessels," Lisa whispered, pointing to a ship that looked like a mountain covered in crystals. "That Veltar command ship is probably 20 times bigger than our largest battleship." Jake nodded, but tried to keep his expression calm. The Earth's Hope was a good ship, but compared to the alien vessels surrounding them, it looked like a small boat next to ocean liners. Their ship had basic weapons and decent shields, but nothing that would impress the advanced civilizations gathered here. A voice spoke over the communication system in perfect English, though it sounded strange and musical. "Human vessel Earth's Hope, you are cleared to dock at Port 17. Follow the guidance lights and do not deviate from your assigned path." The docking process took 30 minutes as their ship was guided through a maze of alien vessels and floating platforms. Jake saw ships that looked like living creatures with beating hearts visible through translucent skin. Others appeared to be made entirely of flowing energy contained in force fields. One vessel looked like it was built from the bones of some massive space creature. When they finally docked and walked through the airlock into the station, Jake felt like he was entering a different universe. The corridors were filled with aliens of every imaginable type. Tall, thin beings that looked like walking trees moved slowly past creatures that resembled giant insects with multiple arms and eyes. Some aliens floated in bubbles of water while others glided along without any visible means of support. A guide met them at the docking port. It was a human-shaped robot with a pleasant voice and glowing blue eyes. "Welcome to Nexus Prime, representatives of Earth. I am Unit 779. I will escort you to your assigned quarters, and then to the council chamber when the session begins." Their quarters were simple but comfortable, with 2 beds and a small table. Jake noticed that the walls were made of some kind of smart material that could become transparent or solid, depending on what the occupants wanted. Through the transparent wall, they could see the planet below and the constant traffic of alien ships coming and going from the station. Lisa spent the remaining time, before the council session, reviewing her prepared speech. She had written a defense of human actions in space, explaining how Earth's colonies were established peacefully and how humans had always tried to avoid conflicts with other species. Jake hoped her words would be enough, but he suspected the aliens had already made up their minds. 2 hours later, Unit 779 returned to escort them to the council chamber. They walked through corridors filled with even more alien species, many of whom stopped to stare at the humans with various types of eyes, sensors, and other organs Jake couldn't identify. The council chamber itself made Jake's breath catch in his throat. It was a perfect sphere made entirely of transparent material, suspended in the middle of the station with space visible in all directions. Curved galleries lined the inner surface of the sphere, filled with representatives from dozens of different worlds and species. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform where speakers could address the entire assembly. Jake and Lisa took their assigned seats in a small section marked for new or minor species. Around them sat representatives from worlds that, like Earth, had only recently joined the galactic community or had very small populations. The major civilizations occupied much larger sections of the chamber, their representatives surrounded by advisors and assistants. A being made of pure light floated to the center platform and spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The Galactic Council recognizes the formal complaints filed against the species known as humans by the Veltar Hegemony, the Zephyrian Commonwealth, and the Crix Collective. The human representatives will hear these complaints and be given an opportunity to respond. Councillor Zektar rose from the Veltar section. He was 12 feet tall and looked like he was carved from living crystal, with faceted surfaces that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Honored Council, the humans represent a clear threat to galactic stability. In just 50 years since first contact, they have established colonies on 43 worlds without seeking proper authorization from this body. Their expansion is rapid, uncontrolled, and shows no respect for established territorial boundaries." Zektar gestured with one crystalline arm, and a holographic display appeared showing human colonies scattered across a section of the galaxy. Red lines indicated areas where human territory overlapped with regions claimed by other species. Furthermore, Zektar continued, humans demonstrate concerning military behavior. They build weapons in large quantities and train for combat scenarios that can only be described as preparation for aggressive expansion. The Veltar hegemony demands that human expansion be limited to their home system and that all existing colonies be placed under council supervision. A murmur of agreement rippled through several sections of the chamber. Jake felt his heart sinking as he realized how many species seemed to support the Veltar position. Next, war singer Tolmora of the Zephyrians rose from a tank filled with blue-green water. She was a graceful creature that looked like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus, with tentacles that moved in complex patterns as she spoke. Her words were translated by the chamber's computer system. The humans disrupt ancient trade routes with their mining operations and refuse to participate in the economic agreements that have maintained peace for thousands of years. But more disturbing are the unusual energy signatures our scouts have detected in their outer system. The humans are building weapons of unknown design that could threaten any species in the galaxy. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The aliens had detected the dark matter research, but they clearly didn't understand what they had found. He carefully reached for the concealed communicator hidden in his jacket and sent a coded message back to Admiral Sullivan. They know about the project, but not its capabilities. The Crick's representative was the most disturbing of all. It looked like a giant praying mantis covered in black armor, with 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to track every movement in the chamber. When it spoke, its voice buzzed like a swarm of angry insects. Humans are predators by nature. Their history shows constant warfare among their own kind. They cannot be trusted to expand peacefully among civilized species. The Crick's Collective believes humans should be contained before they become a threat to galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent as the 3 accusations hung in the air. Jake could feel hundreds of alien eyes focused on him and Lisa, waiting to see how humans would respond to these charges. Lisa stood and walked to the center platform with steady steps. She activated the speaking system and her voice filled the chamber, clear and confident despite the overwhelming presence of so many powerful alien species. Honored Council, Earth respectfully disputes these charges. Human colonies have been established on uninhabited worlds using our own resources and technology. We have never attacked another species or seized territory by force. Our mining operations avoid established trade routes whenever possible, and we have always been willing to negotiate agreements with our neighbors. She paused and gestured to a display showing human medical stations and rescue operations. Humans have provided aid to struggling colonies and helped evacuate civilians from natural disasters on 6 different worlds. We have shared our medical knowledge freely and asked for nothing in return except the right to live peacefully among the stars. Jake watched the alien representatives as Lisa spoke. Some seemed genuinely interested in her words, but many others appeared unmoved by her logical arguments. The major powers had clearly decided that humanity needed to be controlled, and no amount of reasonable discussion was going to change their minds. As Lisa concluded her defense, Jake activated his communicator again and sent a single word back to Earth, Starfall. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the command deck of the UES Sovereign, watching the holographic display that showed the Nexus Prime system. Her ship was hidden in the shadow of a dark planet that drifted through space without a sun, invisible to the alien sensors that scanned the area around the Council station. She had been waiting for 3 days, and now the moment had finally arrived. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, checking systems that no other humans had ever operated in actual combat. These men and women had trained for years on simulators, but none of them had ever seen what their weapons could do to real targets. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Foster sat at the tactical station, his fingers dancing across controls that monitored the approaching alien fleets. His screen showed 3 massive formations of ships moving steadily toward Nexus Prime like wolves closing in on their prey. The numbers were staggering, even worse than their initial estimates. "Admiral, I'm counting 3,200 enemy vessels now," Ryan reported. The Veltar crystal ships are maintaining perfect formation about 2 million miles from the station. The Zephyrian bioships are spread out in a hunting pattern that covers most of the system, and the Crick swarm is moving in smaller groups. But there are so many of them, they're like a cloud of metal insects. Kate nodded grimly. She had spent her entire military career preparing for this moment. Ever since the first alien contact had made it clear that humanity was not welcome in the galaxy. The Dark Matter Project had been her idea, born from the simple realization that humans would never win a conventional war against civilizations that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Dr. Alex Carter floated up from the lower level of the bridge, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plates as he moved. Alex was the physicist whose theories had made the Sovereign possible, though he still looked uncomfortable in his military uniform. His wild gray hair and thick glasses made him look more like a college professor than a weapons designer. "Admiral, all 3 ships are fully charged and ready for combat operations," Alex reported. "The dark matter containment fields are stable, and our phase generators are operating at full capacity. I have to admit, I'm curious to see how our weapons perform against real targets instead of asteroids." Kate smiled grimly. "You're about to get your chance, Doctor. Ryan, what's the status of our sister ships?" "The UES Phantom is holding position on the far side of the system under Captain Lisa Grant's command. The UES Shadow is stationed near the asteroid belt with Captain Ben Rogers in control. All 3 ships are fully cloaked and ready for your orders." Kate turned her attention to the communication panel that was receiving transmissions from the council chamber. She could hear Dr. Hayes defending humanity's actions while alien voices accused her people of being dangerous primitives who needed to be controlled. The Admiral's jaw tightened as she listened to species that had never faced a real challenge, dismissing humanity like troublesome children. The debate in the council chamber continued for 2 hours. Kate listened as one alien representative after another spoke about the need to limit human expansion and place Earth's colonies under alien supervision. A few voices spoke in favor of humanity, but they were clearly outnumbered by species that saw humans as a threat to be contained. Finally, the Lumina mediator's voice filled the communication channel. The energy being's words carried the weight of official judgment as it announced the Council's decision. After hearing all testimony and evidence, the Galactic Council has reached a verdict regarding the human species. By a vote of 47 in favor, 12 opposed, and 6 abstaining, the Council orders that humanity shall surrender all colonial territories beyond their home solar system. A combined peacekeeping force will occupy human space to ensure compliance with this ruling. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. Kate felt her blood turn to ice as she heard the verdict. They weren't just limiting human expansion, they were destroying everything her species had built among the stars. Millions of human colonists would be forced from their homes, and Earth would become a prison surrounded by alien warships. On the raw tactical display, the alien fleets began moving into attack positions around Nexus Prime. The crystal ships of the Veltar formed a perfect sphere around the station, their weapons charging with energy that made them glow like deadly stars. The Zephyrian bioships spread their tentacle arrays and began releasing smaller attack craft that swarmed through space like living missiles. The Krix vessels broke apart into thousands of individual fighters that moved in coordinated patterns, too complex for human minds to follow. "Admiral, we're receiving Captain Morrison's response to the Council ruling," the communications officer announced. Kate listened as Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers, calm and steady despite the impossible situation he faced. "We respectfully decline." The alien reaction was immediate and predictable. Thousands of weapons systems across the 3 fleets locked onto the Council station, ready to demonstrate exactly what would happen to any species that defied the galactic community. Energy readings spiked as massive cannons charged up for a devastating display of firepower. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan," Kate announced over the secure channel. "Execute Starfall Protocol. Show them what humans can really undo." The UES Sovereign shimmered like a mirage and suddenly appeared directly above the Council station, its impossible geometry casting shadows that seemed to bend light itself. The ship's hull looked like it was made from solidified space, dark and flowing with patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy readings from the vessel made no sense, showing power levels that should have been impossible for something its size. 2 more ships materialized in other parts of the system. The UES Phantom appeared in the middle of the Veltar formation, while the UES Shadow materialized directly above the largest concentration of Krix fighters. All 3 ships existed partially outside normal spacetime, their dark matter hulls phasing in and out of reality like ghosts made of metal and energy. The alien fleets reacted exactly as Kate had expected. Thousands of missiles and energy beams lanced out from every direction, converging on the 3 human ships in a display of firepower that could have destroyed entire planets. The weapons struck their targets and passed right through them as if the ships weren't really there. Kate watched the tactical display with satisfaction as the alien attacks proved completely useless. The dark matter hulls existed in a different phase of reality, allowing conventional weapons to pass through them without causing any damage. It was like trying to hurt a ghost with a sword. "Ryan, select the flagship of each alien fleet and prepare dark matter torpedoes. Single shot to each target, internal detonation." "Torpedoes armed and ready, Admiral. Targeting the Veltar Command, Ship Crystal Harmony, the Zephyrian vessel Deep Current, and the Krix mothership Swarming Death." Kate took a deep breath. This moment would change everything, not just for humanity but for the entire galaxy. Once she gave this order, there would be no going back to the way things were before. Fire. 3 dark matter torpedoes launched from the Sovereign, each one phasing through normal space like it was made of air. The weapons passed through the hulls of the targeted ships and materialized inside their reactor cores before detonating. The explosions were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, creating holes in space-time itself that sucked in energy and matter before collapsing with brilliant flashes of light. The three most powerful warships in the alien fleets simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, massive and threatening, and the next moment there was nothing but expanding clouds of glowing particles where they had been. The crews aboard those ships never even realized they were under attack before they were vaporized. Complete silence filled the communication channels as every species in the galaxy tried to process what they had just witnessed. The energy readings from the human ships continued to climb, suggesting that the demonstration had barely touched their true capabilities. In the council chamber, the assembled representatives stared at the tactical displays in stunned disbelief, finally understanding that the primitive humans they had dismissed so easily possessed weapons that made their own technology look like stone axes. The silence in the council chamber stretched for what felt like hours, but was probably only a few minutes. Captain Jake Morrison could hear his own heartbeat as he watched alien representatives stare at their tactical displays with expressions of shock, fear, and disbelief. Three of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had just vanished like soap bubbles, destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have been possible, according to everything they thought they knew about physics. Counselor Zektar's crystalline form actually developed visible cracks as stress fractures ran through his body. The Veltar had built their entire civilization on the belief that superior technology and overwhelming firepower could solve any problem. In less than 10 seconds, that belief had been shattered along with their flagship. Warsinger Tolmora floated motionless in her water tank, her tentacles hanging limp with shock. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their military traditions and their ability to coordinate massive fleet movements, but all their experience and tactical knowledge meant nothing against enemies who could appear and disappear at will. The Krix representative made a sound like breaking glass mixed with static electricity. Its compound eyes twitched as it tried to process sensor readings that made no sense. The Krix collective had always relied on numbers and swarming tactics to overwhelm their enemies. How could you swarm something that existed in a different dimension? Dr. Lisa Hayes stepped forward on the speaking platform, her voice calm and professional despite the chaos surrounding them. She had spent years preparing for diplomatic negotiations, but nothing in her training had covered what to do after your species had just demonstrated the ability to destroy anyone who opposed them. The human government wishes to renegotiate the terms of our council membership, she announced, her words echoing through the transparent chamber. We propose a mutual non-aggression pact between Earth and all council member species. We also request formal recognition of our current territorial boundaries and our right to continue peaceful expansion into uninhabited systems. Jake stepped up beside her, adding the unspoken threat that everyone in the chamber could feel hanging in the air like a storm cloud. We have 17 more ships in our fleet, with dozens more under construction. These vessels are not weapons of conquest. They are instruments of peace through strength. We hope the Council will choose to work with us rather than test our capabilities further. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the three human ships maintaining their positions near the alien fleets. The UES Sovereign hung above the Council station like a dark angel, its impossible geometry reminding everyone present that the rules of warfare had just changed forever. The other two ships, Phantom and Shadow, remained visible among the alien formations, their crews undoubtedly watching for any sign of continued hostility. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came through the communication system, addressing the Council directly from her command deck. This is Admiral Sullivan of the United Earth Space Force. Our ships will remain on station until these negotiations are concluded. We have no desire for further conflict, but we will defend human interests if necessary. The Lumina Mediator, a being of pure energy who had remained neutral in galactic politics for thousands of years, finally broke the stunned silence. Its voice carried a musical quality that seemed to come from everywhere at once, and when it spoke, every representative in the chamber listened carefully. The humans have demonstrated a technological breakthrough that fundamentally alters the balance of galactic power, the energy being announced. The Council must acknowledge this new reality and adapt our policies accordingly. The age of human containment is over. Slowly, other voices began to join the discussion. Representatives from smaller species that had always lived under the protection of larger civilizations started speaking up, many of them expressing support for humanity's right to exist as equals in galactic society. They had watched the three major powers try to crush the humans, and they had seen those same powers humbled in moments. The delegate from the Centauri Trade Federation stood up in his section of the chamber. He was a short, blue-skinned humanoid, whose people had been bullied by larger empires for centuries. The humans have shown restraint in their demonstration. They could have destroyed entire fleets, but chose to eliminate only 3 ships. This suggests they can be reasoned with. A representative from the Vegan Agricultural Collective agreed. Human colonies have always traded fairly with our farming worlds. They pay good prices for our crops and have never tried to force unfavorable agreements on us. We see no reason to treat them as enemies. Even some members of the major civilizations began to reconsider their positions. A junior counselor from the Veltar hegemony spoke hesitantly, his crystalline voice cracking with nervousness. Perhaps we were too quick to judge the humans. If they possess such advanced technology, they must have achieved a high level of scientific understanding. Such species deserve respect, not containment. The negotiations continued for 6 hours, as the Council slowly worked out a new framework for human membership in galactic society. Jake and Lisa found themselves in the strange position of negotiating from strength after spending decades as representatives of a minor, ignored species. The final agreement was better than anything Jake had dared to hope for when they first arrived at Nexus Prime. Humanity would receive full Council membership with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. Earth's existing colonies would be recognized as legitimate human territory, and humans would have the right to continue expanding into uninhabited systems using established protocols. More importantly, humanity would be invited to participate in the Council's scientific exchange programs. Dr. Lisa Hayes would lead a joint research expedition to study dark matter applications that could benefit all galactic civilizations. The technology that had been developed as a weapon of last resort would become a tool for peaceful exploration and discovery. As the various alien fleets began to withdraw from the Nexus Prime system, their movements much more respectful than when they had arrived, Admiral Sullivan ordered the 3 human ships to decloak fully for the first time. The assembled alien representatives watched through the chamber's transparent walls as the dark matter vessels revealed their true forms. The ships were beautiful in an alien way, their hulls flowing like liquid metal while energy patterns danced across their surfaces. They looked more like living creatures than mechanical constructs, and the power readings they generated made it clear that the galaxy had entered a new age of technological possibility. Jake stood at the observation deck of the Council station, watching the first joint human-alien research vessel preparing to depart for the Andromeda exploration zone. The ship was a combination of human dark matter technology and alien engineering expertise, representing everything the new alliance could accomplish working together. Dr. Hayes joined him at the observation window, a smile on her face for the first time since they had arrived at Nexus Prime. "It's hard to believe how much has changed in just one day," she said. "This morning we were defendants facing charges that could have destroyed human civilization. Tonight we're partners in the largest scientific expedition in galactic history." Jake nodded, watching as ships from a dozen different species formed up around the research vessel. "Humanity has earned its place among the stars," he replied, "not through conquest or intimidation, but by proving we have something valuable to contribute to galactic civilization." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to adapt to its new reality. Trade routes were redrawn to accommodate human expansion. Scientific exchange programs brought alien researchers to Earth while human scientists traveled to distant worlds. The Council established new protocols for technological advancement that recognized innovation as a form of galactic citizenship. Most importantly, the 3 major powers that had tried to contain humanity found themselves forced to reconsider their own policies and assumptions. The age of domination through military might was ending, replaced by an era where scientific breakthrough and cooperative development would determine which civilizations thrived among the stars. The dark matter warships had shocked the Galactic Council into silence, but that silence had been broken by the sound of a new age beginning.